Did your ancestors really live in caves? If that's what you were taught growing up, you aren't just wrong, you are completely wrong. And I'm about to prove exactly why right now. If I asked you where humans lived 20,000 years ago, you would probably imagine only one picture: a dark cave, a fire burning, and a group of people sitting around wearing rough animal skins. Movies, cartoons, and history books have shown us this image since childhood. But did ancient humans really spend their entire lives inside caves? Or have we all been believing a completely wrong story for thousands of years? Today we are going to reveal a truth that will completely change the way you think about ancient humans and where they actually lived. The truth is so surprising that you will never look at history the same way again. Even today, whenever an ancient human is shown in a movie, they are almost always sitting inside a cave. Hollywood has planted this image deep into our minds. The biggest reason is a trap that we call archaeology. Scientists find the oldest and best preserved evidence inside caves, such as paintings on cave walls, animal bones, stone tools. Because caves are made of solid rock, they provide natural protection. Objects left inside can survive for thousands of years, protected from rain, wind, and snow. But there is a major flaw in this logic. Just because we found evidence inside caves does not mean people always lived there. It is exactly like someone 5,000 years from now discovering only bank vaults and concluding that people in the 21st century ate, drank, and slept inside bank lockers. Now, a very important question arises. If people did not live there permanently, then why did they go into caves at all? There were several very important reasons. 1. Deadly weather. Whenever a sudden ice age storm arrived, a cave became an emergency shelter. 2. Massive predators. When dangerous animals like saber-toothed tigers went out hunting, caves provided temporary safety. 3. The acoustic mystery. This is the most interesting part. Scientists noticed that ancient cave paintings are often found in the deepest, darkest, and narrowest parts of caves. Why would anyone paint in such darkness? Because researchers discovered that these special locations had the best acoustics, the most powerful echoes. Caves were not their living rooms, they were their ancient theaters and temples. People did not go there every night to sleep. They went there to sing, chant, and perform spiritual rituals. So if they were not hiding inside caves, they were living outside, in the open. But wait, this was the Ice Age. Temperatures regularly dropped to -20°C. Movies often show them wearing torn and primitive animal skins, but if you stood in a snowstorm wearing poorly made hides, you would not survive even a single day. To survive outdoors, they had to be extremely intelligent. They invented something that changed everything: the bone needle. Thousands of years ago, ancient humans used small, sharp needles made from bone to sew animal hides together. They created fitted, windproof clothing designed to block cold air. They even had fur-lined hoods, waterproof boots, warm mittens. Our ancestors were not primitive people. They were expert survivalists who understood exactly how to engineer clothing that could trap body heat and keep them alive in extreme conditions. All right, they had warm clothing, but a jacket is not a house. They still needed a place to sleep and protect their young children from the freezing winds. Ancient humans were hunter-gatherers. They traveled constantly, following massive herds of animals across the cold plains of Europe and Russia. Because of this nomadic lifestyle, they needed homes that could be built out in the open. But this created their biggest char. In the frozen tundras of the Ice Age, the ground was covered with snow. There were no trees. No trees meant no wood. No wood meant they could not build wooden huts. If they had no caves and they had no wood, then how did they build homes? What material could they possibly use? The answer to that question shook the entire timeline of human history. Without wood, our ancestors turned to the only thing they had available as a building material: giant animals. Scientists excavated frozen ground and discovered some of the most astonishing structures in ancient history. Entire circular houses built from the bones of gigantic mammoths. Let me tell you a detail that will blow your mind. In places like Ukraine, archaeologists discovered ancient camps that were built using the bones of approximately 140 mammoths. They used the huge curved tusks of mammoths to create beautiful archways. They stacked heavy jawbones and skulls on top of one another to build strong, wind-blocking walls. And they covered the enormous bone framework with thick animal hides to create insulated roofs that kept the heat inside. Imagine sleeping inside a giant dome whose entire structure was made from the bones of enormous animals. These homes were incredibly warm, perfectly engineered, and almost completely protected from the wind. So the next time you see a primitive caveman sitting lazily inside a cave on your TV screen, remember this: that image is completely a myth. Real ancient humans were not people hiding in darkness out of fear. They were courageous travelers, fearless hunters, master architects who built palaces from mammoth bones. And perhaps the greatest lesson from this story is that our ancestors were absolute geniuses, and we are far more similar to them than we usually think. Ancient humans did not live in caves. They lived wherever they needed to live in order.